Good morning, I'm Abheudaya Shrestha, and these are the headlines of the hour. Secure Habitat project initiated for very poor families in Saptari district. Houses being constructed for 41 families in Agnisar Krishna Sarawan rural municipality. Nepal's traditional seeds and crops disappearing. 40% of agricultural genetic source disappearing due to the use of imported and hybrid seeds. Experts warn of food security being affected. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tells the U.S. he objects to any Palestinian statehood that does not guarantee Israel's security. U.S. says two-state solution only feasible way to bringing lasting peace in the region. And the 15th edition of the ICC Under-19 World Cup to kick off in South Africa from today. Nepal to face New Zealand in their first match this Sunday. Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal, who reached Uganda to attend the Non-Aligned Movement Summit in Kampala, has said that Nepal would not move forward until the problems of Nepalese residing in foreign countries are addressed. Prime Minister Dahal met with Nepali nationals during an interaction with the Nepali community in Uganda's capital, Kampala, yesterday. During the interaction, Premier Dahal stressed on Nepali nationals to work to raise the pride of the country. More than 300 Nepali nationals reside in Uganda. Prime Minister Dahal, who reached Kampala yesterday, is scheduled to participate in the Non-Aligned Movement Summit today. Premier Dahal is also scheduled today itself to address the summit that is being held under the theme Deepening Global Cooperation for Shared Global Affluence. Foreign Minister N.P. Saud and Foreign Secretary Sewa Lamsal, among others, are also in Kampala participating in the Non-Aligned Movement Summit. On the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister Dahal is scheduled to hold bilateral talks with participating heads of states, heads of governments, and other high-ranking officials. Prime Minister Dahal is scheduled to return to Nepal this Sunday. New houses are being constructed for the very poor families in Saptari's Agnisar Krishna Sarawan rural municipality under the Secure Habitat project to save them from the chilly winter cold. The municipality is building the houses with aid from donor agencies. The house of Sabitri Devi Sada of Agnisar Krishna Sarawan rural municipality Ward Number 1 was not in a condition to bear rain and foggy weather. Her neighbor Sita Devi Magar had been living in others' house after her house had been swept away by last year's flood. With the 3-bedroom houses with kitchen being constructed under the Secure Habitat project for 41 families, residents of the rural municipality like Sabitri Devi and Sita Devi have been enthused. Agnisar Krishna Sarawan rural municipality initiated the Secure Habitat project with trilateral cooperation from local Mahuli Community Development Center and United Nations Habitat Nepal to construct homes for the homeless who are landless, very poor, underprivileged single women, and those who lost their home to natural disaster. Meanwhile, the local residents have been urged to link the under construction houses to roads and facilitate them with piped drinking water, as well as provide land ownership certificates to the landless. The Agnisar Krishna Sarawan rural municipality has said that additional victims will be identified and the new houses for them will continue to be constructed under the project. However, public representatives and donor agencies have urged the municipality to remain cautious to not discriminate anyone during selection. Barley, buckwheat, sorghum, millet, maize, among other crops are cultivated in all the districts of the country. However, cultivation of many traditional crops of Nepal are decreasing. The government estimates that 40% of agricultural genetic source has disappeared. The government has estimated that 40% of the cultivation of traditional crops with high nutritional values have disappeared. Due to the increasing use of imported and hybrid seeds, Nepal's traditional crops have started to become extinct. Millet has 35 folds more calcium than rice. However, its cultivation is continuously declining. Millet can be cultivated in all the 77 districts of the country. However, its annual production is limited to 320,000 metric tons. Almost 20 million rupees worth of millet is imported in the country every year. Meanwhile, cultivation of various crops have also been affected by climate change. Experts have already warned that this will have an effect on the country's food security. To be safe from this effect, conserving the cultivation of traditional crops will be helpful. The government has claimed that it is running programs by providing grants to farmers through the local levels to conserve the cultivation of traditional crops. Nepal is ranked 49th in the world in terms of biological diversity. Out of the country's 24,300 species, 28% are related to agriculture. The Agricultural Biodiversity Day was observed in the country yesterday. Along with the celebration of the day, if cultivation of traditional crops is promoted and its market is managed, these traditional crops of Nepal will be conserved. Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal, along with the concerned ministry, had directed the government-owned Nepal Drugs Limited to ensure production of at least 20 different types of drugs 1 week ago. However, the Premier's directive has not been implemented. The meeting held last year under the leadership of the Secretary at the Office of the Prime Minister to address the issues of the entity had made a 6-point recommendation to the government. However, it has not been implemented as of yet. It has been 50 years since the only government-owned medicinal drug-producing company, Nepal Drugs Limited, was established. 146 different types of drugs used to produce by the company in the past, while only 8 different types of drugs, including oral rehydration salts, are being produced at the moment. The meeting held under the leadership of the Secretary at the Prime Minister's office last year had made recommendations to provide 250 million rupees to the company and reach an understanding between the entity, Ministries of Finance, Industry and Health in order to immediately start producing 20 different types of drugs and to produce 98 types of medicines in the future, which the government had announced of providing free of cost. However, the recommendations have been limited to documents. The government has allocated 1.28 billion rupees to provide free medicines and vaccines for the ongoing fiscal year. Following the Premier's directives issued last week, the entity has made preparations to produce 3 types of medicines. Meanwhile, the Nepal Drugs Limited has not been able to make profits from the medicines that are being produced. 2.4 million rupees, which the company has been generating on a monthly basis by providing its 43 ropenis of land on rent, is being spent on salaries and allowances. The entity, which is under the Ministry of Industry, has remained ignored by the government. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked people in several provinces how the government spending can be reduced. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
मन्त्रीहरू प्रधानमन्त्री स्वयं नै विदेश भ्रमण जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ लाभा लस्कर सहित विदेश भ्रमणमा जाने र तोकिएको प्रतिनिधि भन्दा बढी राज्यको खर्चमा व्यक्तिहरू लैजाने जुन प्रचलन छ त्यो पनि अन्त्य गर्नु जरुरी छ।
जति पनि कार्यक्रमहरू गर्छौं हामीले स्थानीय स्रोत साधनहरूको प्रयोग गर्यौं भने हाम्रो आफ्नै देशको उत्पादनमा पनि जोड हुन्छ, त्यो सँगसँगै हुने खर्चहरुमा पनि कटौती हुन्छ।
कर्मचारीलाई तलबहरू दिएको हुन्छ, त्यो तलब दिँदा पनि उनीहरुलाई अनुगमन खर्च भने यातायात खर्च, बैठक खर्चहरु, यस्तो खर्चहरु चाहिँ उनीहरु खर्च चाहिँ सरकारले कटायो भने चाहिँ अनावश्यक खर्चहरु चाहिँ खर्च।
मन्त्रीमण्डलमा चाहिँ मन्त्रीहरुको संख्या अलि धेरै भयो, यसलाई चाहिँ घटाउनु पर्छ।
भ्रष्टाचार रोक्नु पर्यो अनि उपलब्धिमूलक कामहरुमा मात्रै बजेटहरु खर्च गर्नु पर्यो।
सरकारले चाहिँ आफ्नो इयरली गर्ने भ्रमणमा चाहिँ अलिकति अनावश्यक भ्रमणहरु कम गर्ने।
Veteran singer and musician Yogesh Vaidya has passed away at the age of 77. According to his family, Vaidya, who had been suffering from health issues, passed away at around 12:30 early this morning while being taken to hospital. Vaidya has lent his voice to numerous Nepali and Nepal Bhasha songs with Sapna Bulaya Sara, Mero Ashma Nahasa and Nepal Mero Timilai Upahar Bhayo being some of his popular numbers. He was in government service for 33 years and retired as Joint Secretary. According to his family, his last rites will be performed at the Pashupatinath Aryaghat this afternoon. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question. What's your say on both ruling and opposition sides' warning of protest? Your options are A, result of not being able to carry out works, B. Keeping public in confusion, and C. Threatening one another. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And it's time now for the international updates. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday told the United States in a press conference that he objected to any Palestinian statehood that did not guarantee Israel's security. Prime Minister Netanyahu added that the lack of Palestinian statehood had not stood in the way of normalization agreements with Arab states a few years ago, and that he still intended to add more countries to those accords. Israel and its biggest backer, the United States, appear at odds now, with Netanyahu and his right-wing coalition government largely rejecting the establishment of a Palestinian state, even though Washington maintains that the two-state solution is the only feasible way to bringing lasting peace to the region. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, in his fourth trip to the Middle East last week since the October 7 attack by Hamas, took a rough agreement to Israel that its predominantly Muslim neighbors would help rehabilitate Gaza after the war and continue economic integration with Israel, but only if it committed to eventually allowing the creation of an independent Palestinian state. U.S. brokered talks on a Palestinian state in territory now occupied by Israel collapsed almost a decade ago. The latest episode of hostilities in the decades-old Israeli-Palestinian conflict started when Hamas militants stormed into southern Israel on 7th of October, killing 1,200 people and taking 240 hostages. Israel says more than 130 remain in captivity. U.S. President Joe Biden says strikes on the Houthis in Yemen have not stopped the group's Red Sea attacks and that the U.S. operation will continue. The U.S. carried out a fifth round of strikes in Yemen yesterday after a U.S. ship was struck by a Houthi drone. White House spokesperson John Kirby told reporters that U.S. forces took out a range of Houthi missiles that were about to be fired towards the Red Sea. He said the American attacks took place on Wednesday and again yesterday. President Biden was asked by reporters in Washington, D.C. if the strikes on Houthi targets were working. U.S. Central Command, which oversees U.S. operations in the Middle East, said in a statement that it had conducted strikes on 2 Houthi anti-ship missiles that were aimed into the southern Red Sea and were prepared to launch yesterday. UK Maritime Trade Operations reported yesterday that a Marshall Islands flagged tanker had been approached by drones off the coast of Yemen and that one had dropped into the ocean.
Sports News.
The 15th edition of the ICC Under-19 World Cup is kicking off in South Africa from today. Ireland are up against the USA, while host South Africa will face West Indies in the matches on the first day today. Both the matches are scheduled to start at 1:15 p.m. Nepal time. The 16 participating teams are divided into 4 groups. Group A comprises teams from Ireland, USA, India, and Bangladesh. Likewise, England are in Group B alongside Scotland, South Africa, and West Indies. Meanwhile, Australia, Namibia, Sri Lanka, and Zimbabwe are in Group C. Nepal are in Group D alongside Pakistan, New Zealand, and Afghanistan. All the participating teams have experience in playing in the World Cup. Nepal will face New Zealand in their first match this Sunday. Nepal are playing in the ICC Under-19 World Cup after 8 years. Teams from 7 different countries have lifted the Under-19 World Cup that started from 1988. India have won the title 5 times, Australia 3, Pakistan 2, and Bangladesh, England, South Africa, and West Indies have won it 1 time each. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.